Greetings, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. I'm Joe Fulgham. Welcome to Viral Transmissions, episode number 26. Joining me, as usual, is Dr. Rob Tarswell. Our guest this week is Sonia Milbrat, a high school science teacher in the Lower Mainland of BC. She's been with us before. We now know more about what's going on in BC for this school year, so we're going to talk about that after a bit of news. Viral Transmissions is supported in part by the BC Humanist Association. Learn more at bchumanist.ca. So we got a whole bunch of more stuff to discuss, but let's start off as we normally do with the numbers.
Numbers, they keep on climbing.
They really do. Worldwide, we're at 28.9 million cases, 922,000 deaths. It is not going to be too long before we hit a full million deaths. The United States is up to 6.5 million cases, 194,000 deaths, and Canada is at 137,000 cases and 9,171 deaths, which is significantly lower death per capita than the U.S. is doing. So hooray, even though we've got a bunch of bad Canadian news, don't we, Rob?
We have bad and strange news. The news tonight is strange. So stick with us. You're going to enjoy the second half of the show.
Yeah. So the extra numbers that we've got for our By the Numbers section is University of Texas was doing a testing of it. Like the way that this tweet that we've got is worded is interesting. A small portion of its attendees for yesterday's game, brackets, the season ticket holders. And it's quite shocking. So they're like, we're going to test people who come to this game. Seasons ticket holders only. You're the only ones whose lives matter, I guess. I don't get that.
It's Roman Imperial Senate level stuff.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
In the land of the free.
So the word is they tested 1,198 people.
Yep.
Out of that number, 95 tested positive.
Yep.
7.9% positivity rate.
Haha, whoops. And it's an American college football game, the University of Texas. I don't know what the stadium capacity there is, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's in the 100,000 neighborhood, which would be very typical for an American college football stadium. If anyone in the audience knows, let us know. It's going to be some absurdly huge number. So congratulations, University of Texas. Looking forward to future reporting on your massive coronavirus outbreak. University of Texas.
University of Texas, yeah. Here, I'll put the tweet in if you want to.
Yeah. If anybody wants to kind of go looking for that. Well done.
Yeah, brutal.
Go Longhorns. Boom, boom, boom.
And another note that 16 out of the 20 highest mortality countries for COVID-19 right now, and that's mortality per million capita, are in the Americas. The thing that really stands out, let me tweet this, put this, this Twitter. I'm just gonna send I'll share this. Hold on, this is too good to share. The
Western Hemisphere is doing its part to make sure that this disease reaches all corners of the world.
So we got this. And it's not good. But what really interests me about this one is look at the top two compared to everybody else. We haven't focused on this show at all, but Ecuador and Bolivia are way ahead of the pack. Like, you look at most of these, right? You go into the middle, about the middle, like at 25 or so, we're looking at 1.5. And it goes up and that goes all the way up to Argentina and Suriname with 4.7. But then Ecuador and Bolivia with 33.2 and 24.9 deaths per million, just like 5 times the size of the other high ratings. And that is just such a. I would like to hear from an expert why that is happening. My guess is that they're probably at the point where their medical systems have been overrun, is what it sounds like to me. But
possibly, we just aren't going to know, are we?
No.
But if anybody has any insights into what's going on in South America, we'd sure love to hear from you.
United States holding in at number 17 there in the world at 2.2.
Yeah, America, it's kind of like the Beatles of the coronavirus. It just doesn't drop out of the top 20.
Yeah.
It hasn't for months. I don't know if it ever has.
It's refusing to do anything about it.
Or I don't know who. I guess nowadays it would be MBS. No, wait. What's that really huge Korean boy band right now?
Oh God, I don't know.
Is it
Oh, we're so.
BS something?
Oh wow, all three of us suck. All three. The literally the biggest musical act on the planet right now.
Yeah.
And between the three of us, we can't
Oh.
come up with the letters.
The,
Um,
the only
but
the only thing I know about K-pop are the few K-pop stars who have been on the Genius Game show.
oh,
That's it.
BTS say Eskimo and
Okay.
Eskimo
Oh,
Lover.
okay.
I
So-
had two of the letters.
Yeah. Embarrassing, embarrassing. The story that everyone's heard about, so we're not going to elaborate too much on that, is the world was shocked to learn that not only was Trump lying last week, he was lying in February. But he, for whatever reason, admitted he was lying in an interview to Bob Woodward. Bob Woodward, who brought down the Nixon
I
administration.
know, right?
It's funny who gets the truth out of people. The guy who has the potential to do the most damage is the guy that you decide you're going to confess to.
And then he holds on to that information for 6 months as 192,000 people die so that he can put it in his book.
Yeah, lots of weird ethical questions going on there. I don't quite know. That is all the rage on Twitter. So if you can't find that story, you should just surrender your internet rights. So we're not going to get too much into that because we're interested in the unexplored dark corners of the coronavirus. That's why you guys come here for our sad, sick content.
Yeah.
Now, story number one. We got to switch the focus to students here because we've got a teacher on tonight. So a Miami University student
Yeah.
admitted that he tested positive for the coronavirus. Let's roll the tape.
Stable, Milligan Road, Yankee Road, called out on fire by Battalion 110. Going to be in the roundabout, causing traffic issues.
So
They're going to
it's a frat house.
So,
Assuming you probably know where I want to talk to you.
Just too many people.
Well, do you know what the ordinance is?
10 people.
Yeah. I mean, you had, how many people live in the house?
Eight people live here.
Okay, so kind of how it reads is if you have 8 people in the house, then that means you can really only have 2 people over.
2 over.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah, we can get everyone
it's
out.
kind of
Yeah.
handcuffed here, you know what I mean?
Yep.
How many people are in the house?
Like 10 of them just came by, but they're leaving. They're going somewhere else. So maybe 20.
20 people inside?
Probably 30.
Also, listen to how
you might
cops
wanna
talk
start
to
clearing
white
up,
guys.
Yeah, that's fine.
Please? I'm gonna wait right here.
Please. My hands are tied. It's the ordinance. Golly, could you get people out of here? That's how cops talk to me.
Was it the music or too many people?
But wait for
Well,
it.
yeah, it looked like there were too many people and you had music going, so yeah.
But let's see.
We appreciate
It's
Can I have your ID
I
partner?
don't want to jump ahead. We're gonna watch the whole thing, just so we get to it.
Also, kind of how it reads is anybody that's here participating and/or hosting, I can cite with the mass gathering, and it's a $500 fine, and then the university is going to find out about it, and that's probably going to be your real problem.
We'd rather not do that.
We'd rather not do that.
Please give us the chance to do. Thank you. So
The law is
the
optional.
rule is 10 people.
Where's he going?
So,
Okay, sit tight for me, okay?
all right, everybody, what do you think's gonna happen when he runs this guy's ID? What do you think? What do you think the cop's gonna find? I don't have chat up because this is full screen right now, but so he's
The
running.
suspense is killing me.
Hey,
Hey,
so
Zach, can you come here?
yeah, come on, Zach, let's have a chat. Just gonna take a drink of my water here as Zach walks over.
I've never seen this before. There's an input on the computer that you tested positive for COVID.
Yes.
Oh!
It was a week ago.
Are you supposed to be quarantining?
Yeah, that's why I'm at my house.
Do you have other people here and you're positive for COVID? You see the problem?
Yeah. I mean, they were honestly all walking by when we were out
Medic 11.
How many other people have COVID?
here. They all did.
Everybody has it?
So,
And everybody over here has it?
He steps back,
I think
right?
respond with EMS.
Oh gosh.
Fairfield Road, 40-year-old
Again.
female
That's what we're
mother
trying to
is on the
prevent,
ground.
yeah, I know.
We want to keep this
I
town
know what
open.
the issue is.
That's why I was staying home.
That's why I was staying home
I just
and
moved
having
down, too.
I know, but there were
30
probably
people over.
7 or 8 people that left your house
Yeah.
when you told them to leave. So you're not quarantining if you're mixing with other people.
Yeah.
140, okay?
So everybody here
University
has it.
student.
Oh my gosh. Here's your ID back.
Thank you.
Um,
Yeah,
140 on
do you have a phone number?
yeah.
at 1611.
It's endangering other people's lives. Multiple.
Okay, situation's
other
more
humans'
complicated
lives.
than it seems because everybody here has COVID and you guys have people over. That's breaking quarantine. So who all lives here? Okay, I need your guys' identification.
Anyway, we got the. Are there any more? That was something.
It is. Humans are dumb. Humans are
Yeah.
awful. Like with the. I don't have COVID and I don't have friends over. And if I did, I'd have my mask on and we'd be far away from each other. Like,
Yeah.
Like the only way I meet friends now is outdoors, and we're still wearing masks and far away from each other.
And
Or
no
we
one's
sit
going
down.
outdoors today.
God damn it.
So yeah, nice little surprise.
Yeah.
Even the cop. Oh, I've never seen anything like this before, but the computer's telling me you tested positive for the coronavirus. Oh yeah. Oh, you're not surprised by that. Oh, okay. So on to Iowa, where this is a callback where
Because they're doing it.
somebody suggested at a school district meeting that if the definition of close contact for the coronavirus is 15 minutes within 6 feet, we'll just have the students change desks every 14 minutes. Well, by God, they went ahead and are doing it.
Bum, bum, bum.
No.
Yeah. Teacher reacts. Yeah.
Oh, I just can't even imagine.
Yeah,
Can't you though?
the stupid does not end at students like that kid. It's
Like, I can imagine being told to do that. I just can't imagine how to actually implement that.
Right. Yeah. Let's all get up and exert ourselves 4 times an hour.
yeah.
That'll
So
be fine.
disruptive. Oh my god.
That'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And safe, very safe. Musical desks.
And
Um,
and like you're eventually gonna be near them for 15 minutes anyway. Like they're just arguing, oh, it's only if it's 15 minutes in a row, which I think if you can just think through how that works, it's obviously not true. Like,
yeah. The beautiful part is if you get the kids changing every 14 minutes, by the end of the school day, you will have had close contact with everyone in your class.
yeah,
Well done, Iowa.
yeah.
That's
Let's-
fantastic.
Let's stir up this pot of toxic soup.
Let's
sure
make
that it
sure
gets spread.
everybody is within 6 feet of everyone.
So, which leads us to how well has this been doing so far with schools having pretty much just reopened, some opened early in
Yeah.
August. And the answer to that is at least 6 educators in 5 states have died after contracting the coronavirus since schools began reopening in early August.
As of the 10th. So
this is-
3 days ago.
This is
Yeah.
as of the 10th. Forbes says they will keep this list updated.
Oh, we both put it.
Yeah. I already, yeah. There we
You
go.
put the
We
link
both
up.
did
So-
the link. It's fine.
So, which brings us, so all this good news brings us to our guest tonight, probably
Yay.
known in class as Ms. Milbrat. So, Ms.
Yep.
Milbrat, school's been back in for a week now, and when we last spoke, you were talking about it wasn't even known yet what the shape of the final plan was going to be, the ventilation situation, how many kids in the class. So fill us in. What have they actually implemented as far as you can see, sort of in your classroom?
Right. So my school does have ventilation, some sort of filtered ventilation system because it was updated. And it seems like there is talk of funding, or I think perhaps funding in order to upgrade other systems within the district. So I think that that's being pushed a lot more by the union and being encouraged to be something to look at, because ventilation does seem to be such a significant factor in terms of trying to clear the air. In terms of what the classroom actually looks like, so we had 2 days of orientation without students, and then we brought in students for very brief amounts of time on Thursday, Friday, and they were very staggered. So we haven't had a full day with all students all at the school. But my classes are basically 2 classes of 25 students. They've split us into quadmesters, which was a big thing that a lot of people talked about. I know Alberta had brought that in, or that suggestion, a lot sooner. I think most schools in the Lower Mainland, perhaps even in the province, have gone to this quadmester system. So that means we have 4 quadmesters instead of 2 semesters. And we teach 2 courses, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, for 10 weeks straight. And then we have to write report cards and move on. So it will be very interesting to see how that actually plays out in terms of educating students in the classroom, because it's a 3-hour block in the morning.
Oh, it is. Wow. So you've got one group of kids, like, say, how many kids is it, by the way?
Pardon?
How many students in your classroom?
So I have 25 students in the morning and 25 students in the afternoon. Some of my coworkers have up to 30. So it looks different depending on if you're teaching juniors versus seniors. So my school, we have grades 8 through 12. And they've designated the 8s and 9s as juniors. And what that looks like is they are cohorted, what we are calling learning groups, because I think it optically sounds better, perhaps. But I'm not entirely sure what the
optically sounds better.
is.
You call yourself a physicist.
You got to mix all the senses. So we're calling them learning groups. So the juniors, what has happened is they put them into learning groups of 60. And so what that means is that in the morning they are in a learning group or a cohort. The idea is that they can have up to 30 in the classroom and be allowed to mix and mingle as needed, sans masque. Although all of my students, when they came in, all wore masks the entire time they were in my classroom.
Good students.
So, and I think there's kind of a culture of mask wearing, I think, at my school. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out when we're in class for 3 hours straight, but that was good. The school district provided 2 masks per student as well, because it's required in all hallways, all common areas of the library, things like that. Teachers were also provided with 2 masks, 2 reusable masks. It seems like face shields will be upon request. So there were very, very few available at my school. I had already bought some before there was an announcement that we would get some, before we found out that we might not get some in the end.
We should have pulled one up, but there is a $1,000 face shield available from Louis Vuitton.
Oh, Jesus. So anyway, with the juniors being in cohorts of 60 now at our high school and in our district, and I believe in most districts, they've actually reduced that maximum from what the ministry said. So the juniors, they kind of are all maximum of 30 in one class, and then they will mix perhaps with another class to have 30 go somewhere and 30 go another where. What that means is they were basically designated all their electives. So it's like you're in this cohort, you get to take dance as your, ADST. And you're in this cohort, so you're going to be taking woodwork. So that means basically none of their requests were because the cohorting would have been way too complicated.
Right.
And they wanted to keep all the juniors in schools. So they're in class 3 hours in the morning, they're 3 hours in the afternoon, within some 60 mingling for
Wow.
for all 4 quadmesters. So part of what's required now with that is that grade 10 requirements for prereqs are going to have to change for a lot of these electives and things like that, based on the fact that some students aren't going to have the prereqs they wanted for certain electives. And I mean, they would all be taking the same core subjects at that level. There's not a lot of quote unquote streaming or things like that, or choice. They take science 9, they take science 8, they take math 9, math 8, that sort of thing. So so that's what happened there. And then with the seniors, they did a really unique thing, but I think it's sort of something that a lot of schools around at least Canada have brought in, which is this sort of mixed system. So in the morning, the seniors are all in a class full time for 3 hours. So that's the grade 10s, 11s, and 12s. And that is their learning group of that 30. And so what they're trying to do is say, this is your 30 and that's it. So that's their maximum learning group size. So what happens in the afternoon is they have second classes, but because of prereqs to go to university, trade school, etc., they couldn't just dictate their electives in the same way as they did with the juniors. They couldn't keep them in these cohorts where they were kind of slotted in to where they fit, because there were, this person needs chemistry 12, this person needs, I don't know, art 11, etc.
Automotive 11, yeah.
So so what they've done is in the afternoon, they've put them into a class that they requested or require, but they've now done this hybrid thing where only half of the class actually shows up in class. So that would be a maximum of 15. They would be spaced out at least 2 meters apart and required to wear masks if they come into contact with each other, etc. So their afternoon class, they're not actually in their cohort. So all of the physical distancing, etc. rules apply in their afternoon class. The other 15 go home and do online learning. So now teachers are required to provide online and in class kind of at the same time, which has led to a lot of questions around whether or not there's double duty happening or not. But the idea with what the district is trying to do is meet these ministry requirements of cohort sizes, and there's ideas and suggestions on how you can do this without doubling your work. But I only teach juniors this first quarter, so I haven't had to think about how exactly I would manage a weird hybrid system.
Just put your phone on Discord while you're giving your regular thing and point it at you and go, deal with it, and then do your thing. I think is what you'd have to do.
So I mean, that is one suggestion and one idea of how teachers are going to get around it is stream the lecture as it's happening.
But that makes me then think, do these schools have enough bandwidth for every single teacher who needs to stream out of the school to all the kids' classes, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that infrastructure, but they've suggested that it's possible.
What are they doing in terms of testing, coronavirus testing?
So there's no like testing, although they say if you have symptoms, you should be calling 811 and going to get a test if 811 suggests it. In terms of coming into the school, for last week at least, and my understanding is this is moving forward, they're not to step foot in the building, and we personed the doors asking, have you done your health check? And so that was sent home, and the idea is they have five questions that they have to answer. If they answer yes to any, they can't come to school. So it's, do you have a runny or stuffy nose? Do you have a headache? Do you have nausea, vomiting, diarrhea? Is anyone at home sick? I think I'm missing one. So it was on our school website and the district website. So they're supposed to do the health check. And as they come in, we say, have you done your health check? Yes. Okay, you can come in. They hand sanitize at the doors, but it's sort of a self-reporting self-check. And teachers are expected to do the same sort of self-report, self-check. Right. So there is no, there's no thermometer scanners at the door. There's, nothing like that.
Right. We're heading into a respiratory virus season. So what happens when you when you wake up one morning and have the sniffles? What's the backup plan?
So there's a lot of confusion, I think, around that because it seems like there's perhaps conflicting information or perhaps just so much information that and teachers have sort of different expectations than perhaps what even is written down, and then it gets passed on as folklore that everyone seems to think was, mandated and is instead just what everyone sort of assumed or thought. But what it seems like is as soon as you have any sort of symptoms, respiratory symptoms, you should be calling in sick, you should be calling 811, you should be going and getting tested, and you shouldn't be, coming into work if you have any sort of possible symptoms whatsoever. And the same with students. They should be staying home, getting work through online systems, emailing the teacher, that sort of thing. They should be coming in even if they think it's just allergies or just a cold, because you never know when they could have a cold that's symptomatic but also have COVID that's asymptomatic and then spread it because of their symptoms from something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're supposed to call in, basically.
Yeah,
What
so
you
everyone
tell
who
me.
is presenting any kind of symptoms should not be coming into the building. Which
right.
yeah, leads to a lot of concerns around sick days, around
Yeah.
TOCs, that kind of thing.
Okay. And do you have like a giant battalion of substitute teachers just ready to go at a moment's notice?
With the TOCs or teachers on call, there were no extra teachers hired for this.
Oh.
We do have some priority TOCs who they're on call basically every day, who should be available to come in.
Mm-hmm.
But there's concern around whether or not there are enough to meet what perhaps could be very high demand, especially since there has not been they haven't come in and hired a whole bunch more to perhaps cover what may be a significant number of absences. What they have done is taken the TOCs and split them into quadrants or zones. So to try to keep them safe, they're also only keeping them within zones based on either where their home address is, if they're full-time TOCs, or where their home school is, if they're part-time teaching and part-time on call. So they're trying to limit spread that way through zoning. I think that kind of assumes that specialties are divided out evenly or distributed geographically, which may become a concern if I need someone to cover a physics class, for example. I don't know if there's a physics specialty within our zone.
Last week, I don't know if I said it on the show, but I came up with what I'm calling my Nanaimo bathtub race theory of school. And for those who don't know, if you're not from around here, every year a city on Vancouver Island called Nanaimo has bathtub races, and you get in the water and you've got to complete a certain course in your bathtub.
You literally strap an outboard engine to a bathtub.
Yeah.
And then race
and
it. Yeah.
A lot of these things sink. A lot. Like a lot. And
is there a bathtub reef off of Nanaimo? Like just a giant growing reef of sunken bathtubs.
I don't know. So my theory goes like this: is that everybody starts out in good faith, and the motors are running, and they're full of gas. But at some point, the bathtub starts taking on water, and at some point, the race is over. Not because anybody's won, but because everybody has sunk.
That's right.
And from what you're describing, sounds from the outside like a very fragile system with so many potential fault points, and really only one of them has to go for this whole thing to cascade, and we're all back to like online learning, lickety split. So, is there a disaster contingency?
So they've kind of told us to plan in a way such that if we have to go to fully online learning, we would be able to. So what that looks like for our district is we have everything on Microsoft Teams. Our IT people were all supposed to create our teams this weekend. I haven't looked yet because I try not to work on the weekend. Although I do that more than often because I've already checked my email. But yeah, the idea is they've created Microsoft Teams where we'll be uploading assignments, where we'll be uploading basically everything.
Okay.
So we're supposed to be able to switch to online learning should the need come about. Should phases change or stages, because they call them phases for the province and stages for the school, or vice versa.
Yeah.
I keep getting confused about the vocabulary. And 1 to 5 in terms of severity is the opposite for stages versus phases.
Oh, good. Good. Well,
Yeah.
so there is a reserve parachute to go fully online
So
when your bathtub sinks.
I mean, it's there's some classes I think that are going to be easier than others to switch over. Like, I don't know how you do woodworking virtually. Robotics, home ec, maybe, but then you're assuming every student has access to certain materials. And I mean, there's a huge equity issue there.
Do you have a fume hood at home to do chemistry demonstrations with?
I don't know, over my oven. I've got the vent.
Yeah.
All right, kids, we're just gonna put the copper sulfate now on top of the burner. Ordinarily, usually a Bunsen burner, but just a burner on my stove for now.
Just imagine smuggling home, some copper sulfate solution or something. It's going to be virtual demos, right? And they say, it's the same thing, these, virtual dissections, virtual chem labs, but like clicking on a beaker and then it dumps into another beaker is not the same skill as actually pouring a liquid.
That sounds like something off like the Magic School Bus CD-ROM from the 90s. Do you kids remember the CD-ROMs?
Good old Magic School Bus. My grade 9s love it. It's very funny. Anyway,
it reminds.
Well, that's good. It's good because you're going to be using some of that. All right.
It reminds me of that bit in Aliens. How many drops is this for you, Lieutenant? 38. Simulated. How many combat drops? 2, including this one.
I mean, we can only do our best, right? Yeah. If they go virtual, you just kind of do what you can, right?
Then what you're going to have to do is somebody's going to have to invent a lab where what you do is press a button and that makes a beaker pour into another beaker, and humans never have to.
It's been invented.
There you go.
There's some varying quality of simulations. There's some great physics ones.
If Fisher
Chemistry
Scientific,
and biology is, it's tough. It's tough to not do hands-on.
If Fisher Scientific can overcharge for it, they have invented it.
Yeah. One of the things that actually gave me a little bit of hope here is how much of this is self-reported and how easy that would be to, if you needed some time as a student or a teacher, you could just go, yes, I was very sniffly this morning. I'm sorry, you're going to have to go home. Okay.
But then you have to get the test.
Sure.
I don't know. I hear it's not pleasant.
Neither school.
No,
I don't know if you've heard
the brain tickles are probably not very much fun. But who knows? Maybe we're now that Health Canada backed down and said, okay, maybe we will authorize rapid saliva screening. I think for something like school environments, that could be huge. That could go such a long way to removing some of the fragility from the system that you're just stuck with right now.
Yeah, there was a rumor that these saliva tests were being rolled out somewhere. I think in Canada.
The U.S. In the U.S. for sure, but and the question before Health Canada was, if these things are available, would you allow individuals to use them? And Health Canada said, no, absolutely not. Blah 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 blah, and they gave all these just really dumb answers relating to, well, people might not understand the results, yada yada yada, and it's the same kind of BS when self-administered pregnancy tests were first suggested. And so it's the same thing every time, this very paternalistic response toward the public. And, guess what? People do know what to do when they see the 2 lines on the pregnancy test. It's just fine, versus just the 1 line.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you have a coronavirus test that can be that simple, it's going to be fine. And then in 2 or 3 short months after that, there's going to be somebody on the internet who figures out how to play Doom on the coronavirus test. But that's something I saw on Twitter last week. Yes. Somebody figured out how to play Doom on a pregnancy test.
Well, the original story, he was actually only streaming a video to the screen, but it went viral, and he was like, "No, it's not playing. It's not playing Doom." And then he went, "Fine," and he made it play Doom.
I'm just gonna,
Yeah.
I'm gonna play Doom. I'm gonna play Doom on a pregnancy test. And wow, okay, he did it. So on to other things, sort of fantasy level. Since a lot of what you're having to work with sounds sort of fantastical, not in the sense of fantastic, but in the sense of fantasy. The home of fantasy, Disneyland, is really they're making the mission real. So workers at Disneyland have revealed that Disney is not only underreporting its coronavirus cases, but is clearing coronavirus positive employees to return to work. Yeah, so that's a follow up from the altered commercial we showed a few weeks back, several weeks back now, of a lot of happy, smiling looking Disney employees saying, "Come back, welcome." Yeah. Oh, and Cyndaquil adds, "Someone played Dark Souls on a set of bananas. There is no end to what gamers will do."
Okay.
Wow, okay. I've heard of banana keyboards, but never Dark Souls. Schemiel, a close friend of mine that works in Disney, Florida, told me that's true. He's been out sick, and they keep telling him to come in anyway. Well, that's fantastic.
And they're underreporting, and they're also not cross-reporting between groups. So, like the unions in there really want to know who of their members have been infected, right? So that they can keep the other members safe. But what they're not doing is, if somebody in one union gets infected, they are not alerting other unions that person might work with. They're basically going to the bare minimum that they have to, and going, okay, legally we have to tell your union. And then they tell them.
It's a plague world after all.
I say this a lot.
Plague world after
I say this a
all.
lot about all these kinds of
It's a
things when it
plague
comes to
world.
business and government. We
It's a
very
plague-
often do stuff like
plague
Disney did this,
world.
Disney did that. It's some people at Disney. There are signatures on memos that have set this policy. The buck stops somewhere, and I want to start knowing names. I want to stop knowing that people who work at Disney can make these decisions and still have a career down the line because nobody points out it was them, because everybody goes, "Oh, Disney did this." No, some person at Disney did it. Get them. Get them. Tell us who it is. And I don't just mean get them as in chase them with pitchforks and torches in the street, although I'm almost at that point.
Speaking of names,
Yeah.
Hollywood, USA. Dateline Hollywood.
That's a name.
A Hollywood doctor,
What's his name?
Dr. Huizenga, Robert Huizenga.
Oh, okay.
Huizenga. Let me put the story in the chat here. This is just fantastic on so many levels, and we're going to get into all of them. So a story appeared on a preprint archive, and preprint archives are things that we've all learned about in the last 6 months. Our show's been on the air 6 months.
Yeah.
This is episode 26, half a year. Happy half-anniversary.
It's nowhere near over.
It's no...
Save us.
We want to stop doing this.
Save
Or we
us.
don't want to have to do this. Yeah. Somebody please get a vaccine in my arm. But
Let's-
not that Russian one.
Let's do a show about COVID. How long could it last?
So this guy started just going into hospitals and giving patients a miracle mixture called NMN. NMN for nicotinamide mononucleotide. It's a what could you call it? It's a supplement. It's a miracle food supplement. And then he reported that he had dramatic clinical improvement in 9 consecutive acute ill elderly COVID-19 patients treated with a nicotinamide mononucleotide cocktail, a retrospective case series. What he didn't disclose is that NMN is sold by his brother as a miracle cure. his brother, who has had previous involvements selling items such as lie detecting MRI scanners, and yeah. Um, but it's absolutely fascinating. So the supplement EGA is what it's called in its trade name, which is age spelled backwards, sold by Egaceutical. Egaceutical. Ah, get it? So and it's sold by his brother Joel Huizinga,
Okay, we
and
got names.
famous for the no lie MRI. And Dr. H apparently has had previous involvements with celebrity spas. He's been involved with the LA Rams in some capacity, and has been offering this miracle, like basically Benjamin Button solution. If you use EGA, the fountain of youth. That's a quote. And so, what he was doing was like he didn't have ethics approval for this. Literally sneaking into hospitals and forcing this stuff down his patients' throats. Um, when he actually would try to get it added, the hospital staff would be like, "Well, no, you can't add that. We don't know what that is. We don't know if it's safe. We don't know if it's effective. We're not adding that." And he just went ahead and did it anyway. And then had the nerve to put this case series together and publish it on a preprint archive, which is that place where you can publish things. It's a way to get information rapidly to the public without peer review. And they've become a really important source of scientific information. Well, the internet found out about this, and you can't actually find the preprint anymore. He yanked it. But oh baby, this thing is out of the bag, and I don't know what the latest is because this was September the 11th and today's the 13th. But a lot can happen in 2 days when the whole world finds out you've been sneaking into hospitals and pouring unknown elixirs down the throats of your patients. So we eagerly await. And my favorite part is that somebody did a screen cap at the very end of any scientific paper you have to submit. You've got to declare your conflicts of interest. And he says, declaration of interest, none to declare. Oh, beautiful.
I have lots, but I'm not going to declare them.
Yeah, none to declare. Oh. So, and then he says, under his ethical approval, which you also have to disclose, consecutive patients were enrolled in this study after signing written informed consent for study participation. These were really sick elderly adults, and for identified data being reported in a published case series on an over-the-counter food supplement. Thus, this research is exempt under 45 CFR 46.101B4 from all 45 blah, 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 blah. How handy, how handy. Funding, none to declare. Yeah.
I have some from my brother who wants to sell this bullshit, but I'm not going to declare it.
Yeah. The best part, I mean, there's one of these little chunk from his paper. So the NMN cocktail was begun on the evening of day 12. She was unable to sit up in bed to drink the cocktail, so her nurse called me to say she had held this initial treatment dose. However, I personally came to the hospital, raised the head up of her bed 30 degrees, sat at her bedside while she slowly, over a 30-minute period, sipped the cocktail through a straw. 12 hours after the initial dose, her oxygen saturation and chest x-ray worsened. However, her absolute lymphocyte count markedly increased from 291 to 540. There's a thing that we teach in medical school over and over and over again. And if there's anybody here who's in medical training, I'm going to emphasize it again. You never treat a lab value. You treat a patient. We don't care what your lab values are doing. If you are getting sicker, stop doing the thing. If you are getting better, keep doing the thing. So he gives these two indicators that the patient was getting dramatically sicker, actually ended up in the ICU. But hey, her white blood cell count improved. Bump, 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 bump.
Yeah, this guy, lock this guy up. Take people out of prison for drug-related charges and put him in prison in their place.
Let's send him to the moon, says Cyndaquil. How about the sun? Or how about just into the sea? So we don't actually have to use any energy
Yeah,
on this.
yeah.
Into the sea.
Hey, Rob, let's do some science. I have a question, which I
Okay.
thought had an obvious answer, but
Oh,
now we
yeah.
have some science. Hey, Rob, can kids spread COVID? Because we've been talking about school and stuff, and a lot of people think that kids can't get it or spread it.
Well, as a matter of fact, in the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report last week, or MMWR, which is a long-standing publication of the CDC,
Yeah.
there was a study of 12 kids who acquired COVID in child care facilities, and they were followed very carefully. Transmission was documented from these kids to at least 12 of 46 non-facility contacts, confirmed or probable cases. One parent was hospitalized. Transmission was observed from 2 of 3 children with confirmed asymptomatic COVID. So SARS-CoV-2 infections among young children acquired in childcare settings were transmitted to their household members.
And at least one parent has been hospitalized from that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
this all seems reasonable. Like, it's almost not news because, like, to me, it would be an extraordinary claim to say children can't get and spread it to other people. Like even because the argument about the kids has been it doesn't seem to affect them as badly. But that doesn't mean that they're not swarming petri dishes with the disease that would affect me as an older person much, much worse, right? Like, so the whole idea of let kids get it's just outrageous to me, and it's so weird that people still think that's going on. And now we just get again news after news confirming that that's the way that it works. Like,
Right.
yeah,
Lovely, absolutely lovely. So, Ms. Milbright, reaction to this news that children can indeed spread the coronavirus to each other and to adults.
I mean, I think that's been a huge concern that the union has brought up again and again, and it seems like the ministry was arguing that children couldn't carry it or spread it, and I don't know if they've changed their tune or if they're just trying to downplay what could happen, but I know there are a significant number of teachers who are really concerned because all the districts can do is meet the ministry guidelines. They can't, make their own rules. They have to follow the ministry. And so I know there are a number of older teachers and older teachers on call who, they were retired and they come back to help out on occasion when there's a shortage or, they are close to retirement age. And there's a lot of talk of teachers who are, looking into their early retirement or trying to get sick leave and medical accommodations and things like that because they are, especially the teachers in elementary school, really, really concerned that, they're going to spread COVID to them. And so they're, we're obviously concerned about our students getting it, but we're also concerned about ourselves.
Yeah. And the parents and all
and
of that.
our
Like,
families.
Yeah.
Well, you can let your shop steward know that September the 11th, 2020, so Friday, this paper came out, Transmission Dynamics of COVID-19 Outbreaks Associated with Child Care Facilities. Salt Lake City, Utah, April to July 2020 is the title of the paper.
Yeah.
So they studied this over several months and indeed directly confirmed that this is in fact happening, which is probably pretty important ammunition for, the Nanaimo bathtub race might be even shorter.
Yeah.
So,
as long as they pull out real quick and just get it to online, and I understand that's got a whole bunch of other problems, but the problems aren't potentially
fatal.
thousands of deaths. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I hope it doesn't take some, really, really terrible things to happen for changes or, reconsideration of some policies to occur at the ministry level.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's we're running out of time, Rob. Let's run through the science we've got. So we've got some persistent lung damage and some brain damage here articles that we've got. Do you want to go touch the important parts of this, or is this something we talked about before?
Well, we're starting to get data now on lung damage, and it seems that individuals with coronavirus who have lung damage, so far it seems to be healing. It doesn't seem to be getting worse. It's not healing particularly quickly, and that healing could, of course, plateau. But now, in a 12-week series, looking at a group of with an average age of 61, half of whom were smokers at the time of diagnosis. This is an Australian group. 20% still exhibiting abnormal lung capacity testing at 12 weeks. That's where they have you breathe into things really hard and really fast. 39% subjectively reporting shortness of breath after 12 weeks versus 47% at 6 weeks. So the trend seems to be improvement, but is that going to flatten out? I mean, 12 weeks, that seems to be kind of a long time. At what point do these changes stop improving? We don't know. Is this sort of acute on top of permanent inflammatory changes, like scarring type changes? Don't know. Also, some new data out last week. There was a big question: can coronavirus get into the brain? A preprint article came out that seems to show yes, that indeed the coronavirus can get across the blood-brain barrier and can get directly into tissue, and they've demonstrated this 3 different ways. Number one, they took post-mortem brain samples, kind of ground them up, and went looking for coronavirus and found it in individuals who had the disease and died of COVID.
Wow.
Second, they exposed previously unexposed mouse models to the coronavirus and found that indeed, when the mice got the coronavirus, they could detect it in their brains.
Wow.
And the third, using something called organoids, which are little tiny brains that that can be kind of grown on scaffolds in a lab. It's basically a way to sort of study what might be going on in a brain without actually kind of getting into serious ethical problems. You grow little tiny organs that allow you to get a 3D sense of the architecture of the organ of interest. So there are brain organoids that they've been able to demonstrate that they can infect with the coronavirus. This hasn't been peer reviewed yet, but individuals who've looked at this have said, you know, they've done it very elegantly. This is the way you would do it. So we'll see what happens. But right now, there's at least this preliminary evidence that there's not just an inflammatory response in the body and in the brain, but the virus itself seems to be able to directly attack the brain.
I need my brain. It's one of the few parts of my body that I like.
If you have a soul, that's where it lives,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or like Daniel Dennett said, if you're going to get a heart transplant, you want to receive the heart. But if there's a brain transplant, you want to go with the brain.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah. So it actually attacks the brain. Does this mean that it passes through the blood-brain barrier, or is this other?
That's right. That's potentially exactly what this means.
Holy
Yes.
cow, that's bad.
Yeah.
That's like, I don't know a lot, but I know that that's bad. That the blood-brain barrier is there for a really important reason, and when things get past it, it is very, very, very bad. My friend Josh got what's the fungal disease that gets into your brain sometimes from southern
Which
United
one, man?
States? Fungal brain
the amoeba?
disease.
Amoeba?
Fungal meningitis,
Or-
but it's also called Cryptococcus, I think is what he got it from.
Oh.
So it's just a fungus that you can just breathe in certain areas of southern United States. He's from California. He's actually like a systems engineer for Disney, and he just on a vacation like with his kids got it. They're not exactly sure exactly where it got through his blood-brain barrier, and he was just like, his brain still doesn't work perfectly. And this was 2 years ago that it happened to him. And he still sometimes goes, wait, sorry, I had fungus in my brain. Because, like, he still has to do that. He's back at work and stuff and is fine. Because thank goodness Disney actually has a good medical plan for their employees. But
Well, they better. Ooh.
but it was brutal. Like, he was useless for a whole year. At least. Yeah. Right. So your brain's important. Don't let fungus or diseases get in there. Should we deny disinformation, Rob?
Yeah. So that journal that I talked to you about, MMWR, it's one that kind of had a sudden burst of fame late this week. It's a journal that like almost nobody outside of medicine has ever heard of. Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. It's kind of like inside baseball for epidemiologists. It's how they kind of communicate with each other about emerging disease threats around the world. And that's why it comes out once a week, so that it can be constant. And even though it's once a week, that paper about kids transmitting coronavirus was released early. So it tries to be extremely current. And we found out that over the last few months, the Trump administration has been attempting behind the scenes to directly alter the content in the journal. Michael Caputo, a Trump campaign official, and his team have attempted to add caveats to the CDC's findings, including an effort to retroactively change agency reports that they said wrongly inflated the risks of COVID-19. And also, they wanted to add caveats that should have made clear that Americans sickened by the virus may have been infected because of their own behavior. Now, it's sort of hard to understand. Well, okay, that seems bad, right? But you have to understand how important MMWR is. And I kind of wrote a thread about this on Facebook. In June the 5th, 1981, there was a report in MMWR called Pneumocystis pneumonia, Los Angeles. And it was a report of pneumocystis pneumonia, a really rare, weird kind of pneumonia that you can't get unless your immune system's been destroyed. And MMWR, epidemiological scientists noticed, well, we had 5 cases of pneumocystis pneumonia in gay men in Los Angeles, all in 1 month. What's going on? And that was the first scientific evidence that there was a new disease threat that was attacking immune systems, seemed to be at that time found primarily in gay men. And a year later was when the world finally heard the first evidence or information about the acquired immune deficiency syndrome. And then after that, the human immunodeficiency virus was discovered. So MMWR is really critical as a place where when weird things are going on around the world, that's the journal where you can kind of shoot up the red flare and say, hey, I've got something here. I don't know what it means yet. Everybody kind of keep an eye on this. And it was critical in the early identification and characterization of AIDS. And it's been critical in the early identification and characterization of COVID-19. And it's been a primary source of information around the world. And so now everybody, epidemiology Twitter, medical Twitter is freaking out, and infectious disease Twitter is freaking out that MMWR may have been compromised politically. And this could have been going on for months. So even Reagan didn't go after MMWR, during the AIDS crisis in America. But never let Trump never let a propaganda opportunity pass that he couldn't stick a finger in or send one of his filthy henchmen's fingers into. And this seems to be the latest one. So, I mean, the good news here is the whole world has now heard of MMWR, and there has been lots of righteous rage on Twitter, and hopefully that gets the goons to back off a bit.
Yeah.
We'll see. But it's good that the word is out now. Somebody somewhere leaked all these emails back and forth from CDC to the administration saying, change it. We're not changing it. Although there is evidence to suggest that on 2, maybe 3 occasions, there were some wording changes within the journal. Yeah. Which is just mind-boggling stuff.
Wild. I feel like we should skip straight to our denialist of the week. We don't need we're already at an hour into the show.
All right.
And the other 2, I'm so tired of denialists anyway. I'm willing to skip them and pick our king, who is homegrown.
Homegrown. We got a Vancouver denialist for you this week. Today in Vancouver was the Vancouver Freedom Rally. Possibly something you could refer to as the Vancouver Temper Tantrum Rally, where you were basically invited, if you were opposed to anything, come on out and voice your opposition. So there were individuals out there who were opposed, of course, to the coronavirus itself. The COVID-19 is fake. Who were opposed to masks. There are individuals out there who are opposed to 5G, or the new Wi-Fi standard, or sorry, the new cell standard. Individuals opposed to communism because, of course, and individuals opposed to child sex trafficking. So Q has managed to find its way into Vancouver, and this wasn't a small rally. This was really huge. The other thing to bear in mind, and this is a little bit of context, because Joe's going to play a little bit of video for you.
I can't find that video. We don't have it in our documents.
Okay,
it's not the
you might
link.
have it. You might have it in your. I would have dumped it into your Facebook,
All
so you
right.
might
I'll
check
see
your
if I can
messenger.
find it.
Yeah. There was the west coast of North America is on fire. In case you haven't heard, and that is not just the United States, but it's Canada. Although fascinatingly, there's been this conspiracy theory that Antifa is setting these fires, and as proof, they're sending out fire maps showing no fires in Canada. They're American wildfire maps. They don't show Canadian fires. But if you look at Canadian data, which shows all of North America, there are plenty of fires north and south of the border. The border doesn't care about the fires, or the fires don't care about the border. And air quality in Vancouver, briefly, in terms of major cities in the world, yesterday, Vancouver briefly had the worst air quality in the world. And it's slightly better today, but still in the hazardous range. Not necessarily extremely hazardous, but doctors like me say, don't go outside unless you absolutely have to. Limit your exposure. Wear a respirator if you can, like an N95 mask, because these are tiny, tiny particles that will lodge deep in your lungs. And a brief exposure is sort of the equivalent of smoking a cigarette. And the longer you stay out there, you're basically like chain smoking all day long. And so
I've got the video.
the Freedom Rally marched in that smog, and here's what they had to say.
Listen. So we've got Unmask the Truth, Facts Over Fear, New Normal equals New Fascism. Bill Gates, Antichrist, Freedom with William Wallace, hashtag Save the Children. Breathe in the fresh air. Your body needs it to function. The air quality index was over 200. It was not safe to be out in this without a respirator. There we go.
Fresh air. If you can find it.
So the Vancouver Freedom Rally is our denialist of the week.
Well done, Vancouver Freedom Rally. Shame of the city.
And I think we are going to skip over the other.
Save these?
I'm going to skip over the first one, the one that you thought we should skip over.
Okay.
So instead, hold on, let me do this properly so we don't. So we're going to
All
leave you with our good stuff this week. This is from Kelly, who you may remember 14 years ago did a video called Shoes that went viral. It was one of the first truly viral videos out there.
It's our daughter.
So we'll show you this, and then we'll
It only
come back to
takes
sign
a
off.
pandemic for her to call her parents.
Are you guys like okay and stuff?
We're fine. Never been better.
We just don't like to be in the same room.
We've been social distancing for decades.
Kelly, I want to say something.
Okay.
When you were growing up, I was pretty harsh on you, and I gave your brother all the breaks. I'm realizing now you deserved better. You deserved my support, and you didn't get it. And I'm sorry.
Whore.
What did you say?
Nothing?
Okay, so someone said whore.
Yeah, it was Mom. Mom said it.
What I'm trying to say is, will you stop all the clinking in there?
Hi, Mother Grandma.
Kelly, I love you, and I miss you. Excuse me.
Dad, come back. That was beautiful.
He read a book and now he thinks he's awoke. New topic. Why are you such a loser?
Mom, you don't get to talk to me that way. I am not a loser. I am not a whore. I am strong. I am beautiful. I am Kelly. Deal with that.
Deal with that.
Now, I'm gonna go get a new outfit because I've been wearing the same thing for 15 years.
What is that, a mask?
Yeah, it's a mask and it's rad.
If I hear another thing about a mask, I'm gonna lose it.
Just go yourself, Mom.
Masks. Masks. Let's wear a mask.
How's it going?
Let's wear a mask.
Yeah.
Let's wear a mask. Let's wear a mask. These masks rule. This mask sucks. This mask rules. This mask sucks! Let's wear a mask. Let's party. Let's wear a mask.
Mother Grandma, you don't drink through it.
Let's wear a mask.
Nice. Let's wear a mask. Good advice.
That was our good stuff of the week.
Medical.
I'll post that link in case anybody wants it. There we go. I have not seen the hand washing video by Jewel. I will go check it out. It might be our good stuff of the week next week. Sonia Milbrat, thanks so much for coming out this week and for all that information about how terrifying school is right now.
Thanks for having me on.
This is the horror movie that nobody ever wrote, right? Like, there have been outbreak
nobody's
movies.
writing still.
There have been outbreak movies, but have they ever really been about how terrible it is to just try to live through an outbreak worried that... I guess that's what zombie movies are. I don't know.
If there is such a movie, it's probably French, and it's just got long, slow scenes.
Yeah. The long, dark discontent of my COVID soul.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
We'll see you all next week, everybody. Thanks for watching. Quite a bit of you there this week. It's great. Thanks so much. Remember to spread the word about this show, not the virus. Wear a mask, wash your hands, practice social distancing, stay in well-ventilated spaces or outdoors, and you know all of it because you're watching, I hope. We love you. Take care of yourself. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Yep.